Hey, today I'm going to quickly go through this how I achieved the lighting and atmosphere of this specific scene you see right here. So first and foremost, the scene was this composition, lighting, and atmosphere of the scene was inspired from a shot in the movie Blade Runner, which is basically the shot on the rooftop. I really wanted to. I love the colors, the just the lighting composition and the storytelling in this particular shot. I think it's one of my favorite shots in the entire movie, and I really wanted to replicate that and mimic that emotional or that emotion in the scene. And I think I did a pretty decent job of trying to get that through. So yeah, first and foremost, that was it. And the next one is like I didn't make the environment. I can patch the scene from two environment packs that I downloaded from Epic Marketplace. The first one was the abandoned factory buildings asset pack that you can find on the marketplace, and the second one I believe was the building modular uh, pieces that you could, I think, which is also free a while ago that I downloaded to make the backdrop buildings here in the scene. Um, so when I got the scene, when I downloaded the asset pack, the first thing I had to do was strip away some of the props or the models or reduce the size of the map so I could my iterative process could be faster since a lot of it involves baking light and just sitting and waiting, and few of the props I have, the lesser number of things I need to bake is the lesser time I consume doing that. So basically I took this default map, I stripped away most of the sections after, obviously after I had the composition in my mind. I fixed on the composition and what part of the scene I wanted. So I just took away the rest of the map, took away the base lighting. I believe I used, I think, the day lighting scenario, and I just basically deleted all the actors, all the lighting actors, the directional light, the skylight, etc., etc., to get rid of everything. So since this is a night scene, that means that there's no directional light, which means there's no sun. So this scene does not have any directional light, and it's carried mainly by local lights or smaller localized lights placed around the world or on the scene, which you can see. And then the other main actors are the skylight, which is right here. And for the skylight, so the skylight actor is usually used, or we use a skylight actor to basically capture um, how the sky looks and then project that lighting information onto the scene. But I use skylight in this specific scenario because I wanted to brighten up the shadows or the details on in the shadows around the scene. So if I were to go and reduce the intensity all the way to zero, you can see that all the parts in the scene or the map which doesn't have any local lights or any lights around them turn completely pitch black. So I just use the skylight for that very reason, so I can brighten it up just a little bit. And obviously, as you can see here, I used a simple, where it go, I used a simple HDRI or cube map, which is nothing but a simple blue sky or an HDRI of a blue sky. So just to brighten that up. So that's the first actor that we're concerned with. The next one is we use an atmospheric fog. So atmospheric fog in Unreal Engine is basically trying to mimic the atmosphere or the sky in real world. So it in I think from Unreal 4.24, this the atmospheric fog was replaced with something called sky atmosphere, which is supposed to mimic the physical attributes of sky in the real world, just like Rayleigh scattering and Mie scattering, etc., etc. So yeah, I'm not gonna get dive into it too much, but so atmospheric fog in essence is trying to mimic the sky in real life. But since this is a night scene, there's no directional light. The sky is, well, pretty much black or dark. Um, the next main actor involved in the scene is the exponential height fog, which is basically all the fog coming from, especially the backdrop, the fog in the backdrop. Um, every all the fog around the scene, except the strong localized fog that's placed here, is because of exponential height fog. Just like the way the scene has a lot of misty and foggy atmosphere to it. Um, that's that, and the last important aspect is probably in the exponential height fog too. So in Unreal, there's a sweet thing called the volumetric fog under the exponential height fog actor. Um, what this actually means is, in real world, the when a place gets foggy, the light reacts, or um, the the light reacts with the particles in air, or the fog particles in air, and depending on the properties and the thickness of these particles in air, the light will scatter around these particles. And basically, fog is a volume through which the light will propagate through and show properties based on the properties of the fog. So that's basically what volumetric means, or volumetric fog does in the exponential height fog. And in a nutshell, volumetric fog is a packet of expensive fog. When I say expensive, expensive to render fog around the camera's radius, which is defined by this. So that so the volumetric fog is responsible for some scattering like this, and some scattering around here, especially scattering like this. So if I were to disable the exponential height fog, all this would immediately go away. Or if I were to disable the volumetric fog, we would immediately lose the scattering that used to, oh god, come in through that. Where you go? There you go. So that's basically what volumetric fog is. And the next thing in the scene that's carrying the entire thing is the composition. Again, rooftops, and I wanted this to be the primary focus and then this to be the secondary focal point. So all the composition, the leading lines, and the lighting focal points are all guiding the players or the viewers um, attention towards this and this in the scene. And the next thing that's carrying the ambience or the atmosphere is the local volumetric fogs, which is based or created from something called volume textures or 3D textures. So volume textures are basically flipbooks, or something like flipbooks or sprite sheets, but instead of the third dimension being um, time, the third dimension is one of the axes. For example, wish there was a better example. Stop moving stuff. So for example, something a prop like God, come on, show me the prop.
I want some set to a
a prop
texture.
like
So when I
that
kind of hit
sliced
full,
into a
so what
2D
I can do here
texture
is I can
where the
increase the number
third
of slices if I want more resolution,
dimension is
and I can
basically an
also
axis, in
change
this
the
case
images
an
to
axis
align
pointing upwards.
and screw out
So
the
that's basically
screw.
what a volume texture is, and in Unreal calls it um, volume textures. And there's a way in Unreal where you can take any 2D texture and convert it into a volume texture, and they have a pretty good decent documentation for it. So I did the same thing. I took a simple noise texture and then made a volume texture out of it. So here's the noise texture, which is basically this, a volley noise, and I took that and made a volume texture out of it, which basically looks like this. It's a three-dimensional texture, and then using that I created a simple material which can be used by the exponential height fog for to mimic local volumetric fog. Pretty straightforward, some UV stuff for panning, scaling, tiling, some proceduralism, etc. Blah blah blah. So yeah, simple stuff, and I'm gonna use those things around. Um, for example, like this guy right here. Yeah, as you can see, it reacts with all the lights around. So that's that. Um, what else do we need to go through? Yeah, like I said, most of the scene is driven by local lights because it's nighttime and there's not any one prominent source of light. And the next one I could probably talk about is something called volumetric light maps. So these spheres you see is placed around the entire map is something is called volumetric light maps or samples or volumetric samples. So what these things represent, they're basically each sphere is a probe or a data structure which which holds the data information of baked lighting around the map. What that means is, like, whenever I build lighting or bake lighting, depending on all the static lights that's around the map, that information, or specifically the indirect diffuse information, is indirect diffuse information is added into these spheres or is captured by these spheres. And what happens in runtime is, like, any object that's not move or that's not static will use these information for lighting and for being lit. For example, if I would drop a sphere in here and then make sure that sphere is movable, sorry, a cube is movable, and if I were to move this around the scene, provided that there's no light around which is mobile, which there isn't in this vicinity, so that would be the lighting information from these probes would be interpolated onto the probe. If I were to go and disable it, you can see that the cube shading suddenly becomes flat. So in a nutshell, volumetric light maps are samples that hold the static lighting information, and it's used by mobile props around the map for it to be lit. So that's pretty much the super quick and brief breakdown of the scene. Thank you.